Hey everybody, I'm Jesse, and welcome to another edition of Gen X Thinks. And today, let's see here, get my chat set up right. All right, that's better. Today, I'm going to start out the conversation here with a topic that I talked about on 0 Hour on Sunday evening. We were posed a question, and for those of you who didn't catch it, the kind of a roundtable conversation. So I didn't get much time to elaborate. But the question was something about bugging in, right? What if you don't have a plan at all to bug out? You're just bugging in. And I've heard that term before, bugging in. Y'all who know me, what's up, Bucky? Glad to see you here, man. Y'all who've been watching me for a while, you know I'm not super prepper guy or anything. I don't pretend to be. I just, do what I can. But the whole notion of bugging in versus bugging out doesn't make much sense to me as, just being who I am. Bugging in, I'm bugging in now as far as I'm concerned, as much as I can with my level of resources and, the amount of money I have and the amount of land I have and whatever. The idea of bugging in is just kind of hard for me to wrap my mind around, because my goal is just to be free from control, free from everything, every kind of institution that's trying to track me or monitor me or influence me or brainwash me or control me or any of that. I want to be free from that shit, all of it. So my goal, my actual goal, is to be completely self-reliant and not need the grid at all. Whether there's a grid or not would not faze me at all. If I was living the way I wanted to live, if when I reach my goal one day, if there's a grid, I won't, if the grid went down, I wouldn't even notice it. It wouldn't matter, make a shit to me. If the grocery store was closed for 3 months, wouldn't bother me, because I only go there once every 6 months or once a year maybe. And then if I went there and it was closed, I'd figure something else out. So it just wouldn't be detrimental, I wouldn't depend on the grocery store. I wouldn't depend on the electric company. I wouldn't depend on the gas station. I don't want to depend on anything. I want to be completely and 100% self-reliant. And that is my goal, whether there's an apocalypse or not. So, basically I want to live my entire life in a bug-in situation, in a bug-in state, no matter what happens with an asteroid or a nuclear war or whatever. So all that bugging in stuff just never really made much sense to me, in the way I believe and the way I'm trying to live my life. Mike Fleisner, my boy, what's up, dude? Yeah, sit around and wait to get robbed. Yeah, well, I mean, that depends on where you're at, Bucky, in any kind of urban situation, where you have neighbors and shit, bugging in, I just don't think that's a good idea. You're in a densely populated area, especially if people know, that you've been hoarding beans, and, dude's not going to sit there and and watch his children starve while he knows, that you have a year's supply of food in your basement. That's not going to happen. They're going to come get your shit. Oliver Rust, what's up, dude? Glad to see you here, man. But that's the whole point of in my estimation, my philosophy in life. The whole point of the prepper thing, the bugging in or out thing, and all that stuff is to be self-reliant and self-sufficient, to be free, to not have to depend on any institution, dependent on each other, family, neighbors, whatever, close friends, whatever. That's a whole different ball game. But to depend on corporations and all these financial institutions and government and all this shit, to be completely dependent on them for your livelihood, to stay alive, you need the government, right? You need Walmart to stay alive. Without them, you would just starve to death. I can't do that, and my mind rebels against that. My soul rebels against that. I must, for the sake of my own sanity, at least try to get away from that, to escape that, and be self-sufficient. And that's my goal. My goal is to be completely 100% self-sufficient. And that's considered bugging in, I guess. You know what I'm saying? That's bugging in. Like, to me, that's just the only sane way of life, to me, in my opinion. Because when that shit shuts down, and it must, if there's the Roman Empire would still be around if shit didn't collapse, if shit didn't fail. Nothing is eternal. Nothing. So it must fall one day. Yeah. Yeah, once I get out of Florida, yeah. Yeah, horses and mules would be valued animals in that situation, Mike. Yeah, I used to. What was the brand? Oh man, now I'm gonna mind blank on the brand of my old 22 rifle that I used to have. Dog Karma, what's up? Yeah, all right, Oliver. Yeah, and um, the prepper thing, that label or that word gets thrown around, prepper or whatever. And to me, it's not about preparing so much for something that might happen in the future. It's just about trying to be free now, I mean, having 3 months food or 6 months worth of food stored away, in case of bad times, that just makes sense. But living and existing under your own resourcefulness, providing an entire existence for yourself, is just that's the end goal, right? For me, I don't want to have to depend. I don't want to be worried about whether somebody's going to lay me off next week. I was looking at a thing, graphic, and just how many people these companies have laid off, and it was the numbers were insane. Since March, Apple has laid off like 15,000 people or something, and went down. Microsoft, Amazon, 5,000 or whatever, 2,300, and down through the companies, and and these people getting laid off, they're dependent on that big corporation for their livelihood, And not only that, but then after this big corporation gives them their paycheck, the government takes half of it, damn near, close to, and then they're dependent on, on these other big corporations to take their money in return for sustenance and, and a place to live and all this stuff, we're just, as a people, we're very dependent on these big institutions and shit. And like I said, that goes against my grain. I just want to be free, and that's it. So whether it's bugging in and prepping and all that stuff, we can put, people like putting labels on stuff, and we can put labels on stuff, call it prepping or whatever. It doesn't matter to me. But my motivation isn't, to be bugging in or whatever, or, it's just to be free. To be free, self-sufficient, self-sustaining. I don't want to depend on, on some corporation or something to be able to drive or to eat or to, be warm or to stay cool or any of that shit. I don't want to depend on somebody else, because somebody else can change their mind. Big corporations can fail. Big corporations can, just choose to eliminate your position because it's in their best interest. So yeah. Yeah, Oliver 22 is. That's, yeah. Yeah, me too. And I wish I had, honestly think we're running out of time. I wish we had more time, because I think it's coming. The EU, I was just reading, the EU has already mandated to the European governments to implement that shit. They have to have it implemented by next year, 2026. So they're already, the EU's already on board with that shit. They're already doing it. If we do hold out, if Americans do hold out, which I don't think we will. I mean, there will be people like us who resist it. But when, massive amounts of the population are on board with the shit, they're in, just so many millions of people are in these huge cities like New York and LA and stuff, and they're just gonna pile on board with this shit. Gonna be 30, 40 million people who are just gonna sign up for it the first hour. They're just gonna be all for it. So if our population were sensible and we could come together and realize what is good and what is bad for our people, maybe we could stave it off, maybe we could resist it. But I honestly just think most people are just too stupid. They're brainwashed, and they're gonna swallow that shit hook, line, and sinker, and thank their lucky stars that the government is going to take care of them and swaddle them in their baby banky and keep them warm at night and stuff. That's just that in my experience, that's the way most people think. They want the government to just take care of everything for them. They want to believe these lying ass politicians. They feel a need to be cared for and to rely on something. Just the thought of being self-reliant and responsible for your own actions that's abhorrent to them. They don't want that. They want the government to take care of that shit for them, or whoever. It doesn't matter who it is, as long as somebody's taking care of the phone. And that's why they trade away all of our freedom and shit for the sake of security, a little more safety. We just want to be safe nowadays. And that's just, I don't know. I can't get on board with that shit. I'd rather have some danger and be free myself. I'd rather be, live in a world that's a little dangerous and free, rather than a world that is, completely controlled and 100% safe. I don't need somebody to take care of me and make sure that I'm safe and I'm fed and I'm all this. I'll take care of that shit myself, And not only do I not need it, I don't want it. It goes against the fabric of my being, almost literally, you know what I mean? It's something down deep inside me that rebels against that shit. So, Jack Mohack, what's up, dude? Yeah, exactly, Jack. People that hate personal responsibility, yeah. And the sad thing is, they will trade everyone else's freedom, to escape their own personal responsibility. You know what I'm saying? That's why all this socialism and shit you hear about, everybody wants, not everybody, but a lot of people want socialism in some way, shape, or form. People are all for that shit. I can't get on board with any of that shit. Yeah, Oliver. Yeah. And we all should be. I mean, we should rely, we should rely on each other, family, friends. Yeah, that kid was a hell of a shot, Bucky. But yeah, I mean, we should have support groups around us and stuff, I mean, we're going back to, by necessity, we are reverting back to old ways. Children, multi-generational dwellings, right? Children living at home for longer periods of time. Staying at home. Back in the day, there was nothing wrong with that. That's just the way it was. Your kid didn't turn 18 and go out, and make his own way out in life. He depended on his family. He brought his wife home or whatever. Or, your daughter would leave back then. Your daughter would go live with her husband's family. But, multi-generational homes were just a normal thing back then. And there's nothing wrong with that, But back then, young people knew about personal responsibility. They knew that they were responsible to contribute to that household. You know what I'm saying? So, but the idea of a multi-generational home now is rejected by a lot of people, just because kids are supposed to go out and make their own way and stuff. But it's getting harder and harder in this economy. A young person can't go out there and work a $14-15 an hour job and pay between $1,500 $2,000 a month rent and electric and internet and all this stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's almost impossible. So by necessity, we're reverting back to older ways, right? But a lot of that stuff, we need to go back to older ways in a lot of ways, where people need to just kind of wake up and accept responsibility for our lives, for their lives, Yeah. Yeah, Mike. Yeah. That's a famous quote, and it's never been more true. Those who would trade our freedom for security will be left with neither. Yeah. You can't look at these. Raziel, what's up, Raziel? Yeah, well, that's it, Raziel. That's the thing. Um, they got to contribute. They got to take responsibility and contribute. It doesn't work otherwise. It just doesn't work. So, you know, um, uh, the ones, but kids that stay home. Our son lives with us now, but he's working. He contributes. I mean, he's more than welcome home because because rent is just insane now. You know what I'm saying? Um, and it's ridiculous to just split. To have him paying a whole nother group of bills over there when he can live at home with us where he's wanted and loved and contributing and helping. So it's win-win all the way around. But if that weren't the case, then it would be completely different. You know what I'm saying? But just lucky for us, he's a hardworking kid, and he's a pleasure to have around. But the kids that just want to sit on the couch or sit on their phones and shit, well, they need to get off TikTok and get a damn job, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, yeah, Jack. Yeah, many of them should have gone to trade school instead of getting a stupid ass degree that has no job attached to it. Yeah, all these gender studies and all that bullshit. Yeah, that it's just stupid. But they're brainwashed in the education system. They're brainwashed by the media and all this, and that's the thing to do. You know what I mean? They think they're gonna make a killing, have a great life with their degree in gender studies. It's just, and they're destroying these kids. They're destroying an entire generation. All these kids going through college. I can't. I honestly, I have a hard time imagining a world with them running it. These kids with degrees in gender studies and shit. You know what I mean? They're going to be running the world one day. What the hell is it going to be like? You think the boomers were bad? Holy shit. Oh, okay. Oh, hell, yeah. That's completely insane, Raziel. They won't even do chores around the house. We were doing chores around the house before we were 10 years old. Yeah. We were earning money by the time we were 10 years old, most of us. Yeah, well, yeah, that kind of shit. You got to draw the line, dude. You just have to. There's no fault in that. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. You got to draw the line. Um, and but just this economy, the way the economy is, and the way shit's going, um, we don't have much choice. A lot of people don't have much choice, and the bad thing is that you sounds like you, Razio, you made the right decision there, but a lot of people don't. They'll just let their kids sit on the couch. You know what I'm saying? And play video games and support them. And then, I mean, how many years do you do it? Were the kids 40 years old now? And never had a job. All they've done is play Call of Duty and teabag enemies online and shout obscenities into a mic. And they're 40 years old, and then you pass away. Now, what is this kid gonna do? This 40-year-old man boy. You know what I'm saying? In my opinion, we're not doing kids any service, any favors by allowing them to just have a free ride as long as we live. As a matter of fact, we're doing them a disservice by not forcing them out and go get a job, get some responsibility, do something. If you're not going to get a job, then start your own thing. Something. Just accept some responsibility for your life. Yeah. Degree in lesbian studies of sub-Saharan African Americans or engineering and medicine. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Jack. Pooper scooping in the backyard. Yep. Pant spray. What's going on? Glad to see you here. Oh, okay. 88 Cutlass Supreme. Yeah. And I bet you felt awesome after when you drove that thing off, dude. You know what I'm saying? And that's a feeling that these kids will never have. They don't even know what that feels like. They don't even understand, the kind of pride and accomplishment you feel when you drive an 88 Cutlass Supreme away and it's all yours. It belongs to you. These kids don't understand that, and you earned it with your own sweat. It wasn't handed to you. You earned it. That was yours by every law and regulation known to man. Everybody knew it was yours, so there was no doubt. It couldn't be taken away from you. That kind of feeling. It's just a great feeling. But that goes back to what I was saying earlier about the, oh, it had T-tops. That's badass, dude. Yeah. Oh, okay. That's cool, Oliver. Yeah. I bet they learned some responsibility and work ethic. But that goes back to the whole thing about, self-reliance. Most people today don't understand just how good that feels. Now, back in the day, being self-reliant was just the way it was. That was just the way it was, People canned their own food. They grew their own food. In this new age of super Walmarts and Amazon and shit, we have lost that. And these younger people being born into this have no idea. They have no idea what self-reliance is, how good it feels to be completely self-reliant, to be beholden to no one and dependent on no one, to get through life on your own steam. They're clueless. They have no idea. They don't even know it's possible, let alone, can imagine how it feels to be that way. Yeah. Yeah, Bucky, yeah. The law. Yeah. But yeah, and that is just my goal in life, to be completely and totally self-sufficient. I mean, across the board, where I could just live on my property and never depend on any corporation. You know what I mean? Maybe, I honestly, I'd probably have to buy shoes still. You know what I mean? But um, then if you bought a few pair of good boots, you could probably repair them and keep them going if you learned that trade, that skill, and got the tools and shit to do it. You could probably keep them repaired forever. But I mean, so to be just 100% honest, there are still things that I would have to buy once in a while. But even then, I wouldn't want to be my entire life to be completely and totally dependent on something else. And we don't think about it like that. We think we're self-sufficient if we can go to the grocery store and buy our own food, with our own money, and we're not on food stamps or whatever, right? But what if the grocery store takes a shit. What if those supply lines shut down and all this global shit now, right? What if something happens in China and we don't get any more food from China, because a lot of our food comes from China and Bolivia and South America and all this shit. Our food comes from all over the place now. And avocados are the prime example of that, because there's an avocado season. Before all this global trade shit happened, we had avocados at a certain time during the year, and then that was it. But now we get avocados from all around the world all year round, and But my point in that is, what if that shuts down? What if there are problems in other parts of the world and our food supply shuts down now because they've got us, hooked into the rest of the world for our food supply? So, and the grocery stores are empty. Now what? Now we're not self-sufficient anymore. We're not independent. We find out that we've been depending on, on whatever corporation we've been getting our food from. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy, Razia. I don't get the lack of interest, not even in themselves and their own, prosperity. Yeah, that's not even selfishness. That's just, I don't know what the hell that is. Just, that's laziness, a deep down laziness. Working 15 hours a week and refuse to even learn how to drive. Holy shit. I learned how to drive at the age of 10. I was driving by 11. Yeah. I drove when I was 11 years old. I drove with my dad passed out drunk in the seat next to me. I drove from Mobile, Alabama to Baton Rouge, Louisiana on I-10. And that's just, to see a 20-year-old who won't even learn how to drive, that's crazy. Yeah, yeah, that would have been awesome if he would have accepted it, Raziel. Yeah, yeah, Mike, yeah. Self-sufficient, but they had the Sears catalog. Yeah, dude. Oh, all right. All right, Raziel. Raziel has a Pepsi machine for sale if anybody's interested. Yeah, lemonade stands, paper routes. Yeah, Jack. No, they're not. Not in this internet age. They're not. They're not brought up that way anymore. Everything is instant gratification. They don't want to. They don't want to spend time and put effort in. For a paycheck that's going to come next week, or for some. It's going to take me 3 months to save up to buy that car. Oh my God, no, I can't do that. When I can just get mom to drive me right now. Whatever. So, and then all of their relationships are online. So what the hell? And that's only going to get worse with this AI shit. Forgotten Way. Oh, okay. Oliver, Forgotten Ways. Yeah. Yeah, those kind of books. I need to get that one in paper. Let me write that one down too. I gotta making a list of books I want to get in print, in actual physical books. Dale Earnhardt married at 16. Yeah, yeah, Arnis. Yeah, you can't help people that don't want help, dude. Yeah, it would, Razio. Yeah, you're right, dude. That would make a hell of a beer fridge for the garage. Yeah. Yeah, well, a lot of us are that way, Bucky. We never, like us, we never, uh, got anything passed down to us. We were, turned 18, we're adults, and we're just, we're broke and got to make our way in the world. That's it. Didn't inherit a dime, not a thin dime. So, um, and that's a tough place to start out in life, but uh, we made it. I mean, we're still chugging along. We didn't make it to the top or anything, but we're still moving along. So, um, but it takes a certain amount of drive to make it like that. And that's what I'm saying. These kids are going to end up alone one day. These kids who are just pampered and coddled into their 30s and 40s and shit, and they're going to find themselves alone one day and just lost. There's going to be an epidemic of homelessness. People are just, when Gen X and starts dying off and their kids are just, completely clueless. Joe P, what's up, dude? Glad to see you here, man. Oh, all right, all right. Pan spray. You got to use a family tray. Yeah, if you put your own gas in it, yeah. Yeah, born with a plastic spoon, Mike, not silver. Yeah, my plastic spoon was was broken, and I had to tape that bitch together. Yeah, dude. Yep. But that's a. It's just when I think about it, when I look into the future and see that stuff, because I've seen people, um, even older people, you know people once in a while who just won't work. I've known a couple of those people, throughout my life, and just wouldn't work. Lived at home with their mom. I mean, literally as, as long as they could into their 40s or 50s and shit. 45-year-old man, laying on his mom's couch. Never, never kept a job more than a month or so. You know what I mean? And when the mother was no longer able to do that, then the dude's just lost. What the hell? I've seen it, and I think we're gonna have an epidemic of that shit. Not it's not just one here and there anymore. I mean, it's a big part of a generation. So they're gonna have trouble. They're either gonna have to learn fast and dig down deep and find some damn work ethic and will to survive, or they're gonna be in deep shit. Yeah, yeah, you're right about that, Jack. We experience just going outside and interacting with other people and doing stuff, burning calories, running around outside and stuff. It just and doing paper routes and doing mowing lawns for people and doing these little odd jobs and stuff. That we learn about life and we learn about people. Oh, okay. Yeah, the old shotgun, Raziel. Yeah, and I think that's true, Bucky. That people who are forced to struggle um, tend to be just better people than those who are just have life handed to them. Look at all these celebrities, who are born into uh, fame and fortune. You know what I mean? And just look how you see them. They're all alcoholics, and not that we weren't. We all struggle with our thing, but they're no happier than us. You know what I mean? All that shit didn't make them any better. It just made them more self-centered and egotistical. When they have people fawning on them and all this shit, you get an inflated value of self. Where poor people are just more grounded, more when you cannot be in a place where you must ask for help, financial help, or not even ask for it. Sometimes maybe your friends and family would just see you in a bind and chip in to help you without you asking, whatever the case may be. But you can't be in that position and get help from other people and then and not be not feel like it's your duty or responsibility to return that favor, whether even if it's just with kindness and respect, where you never have to ask for help or be in a position for help because you've been rich. I mean, ignorant rich since the day you were born. You never get that. You're never in that position, and you never get that. You never get that sense of community and indebtedness to others, not to a bank or whatever, but to others, and just good spirit and goodwill. You don't get that indebtedness. So you stay self-centered and shit, and just don't give a shit about anybody else. So in a way, that being broke kind of just kind of instills that in you. Yeah, Oliver hoed beans for $2 an hour as a kid and was thankful. Yeah, and when you do that kind of stuff, that instills in you, that lasts the rest of your life. You appreciate things, and when you spent that money, you enjoyed it more, and you appreciated the things that you bought with that money. So yeah, it just instills appreciation inside you, and that's important for humanity. Now we live in a society where nobody appreciates anything. They expect it. It's their due. All these people on SNAP benefits and shit, they're owed that, they believe. We owe them that. The people who work owe them that. Now, they look at it, they rationalize it as the government. The government owes me that. But nobody's so dense that they don't realize that people pay taxes to the government. The government's robbing the regular people and giving it to them. The government isn't producing this money, they are stealing this money. So just the appreciation of anything, time, money, any of that shit, all that's going out the window. They don't appreciate any damn thing anymore. Everything is instantaneous. You're sleeping on a park bench, Razio. Yeah. Yeah, Mike. Hell yeah. A killer $300 BMX. Yeah, hell yeah, dude. And I bet, the kids that did that love that BMX, dude. That was their pride and joy. Yeah, Joe P. Yeah. AF, what's up, AF? Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, in a lot of ways, being single is tough as hell. because, like I said, I didn't get married until I was in my 40s, and being single was hard. I mean, you have more freedom, don't get me wrong, but being single's tough. I remember working 6 days a week, and then you got to do shit, go to the post office or something, and it's closed on Sunday, and so everything takes more time. Everything's more of a pain in the ass when you're single. So yeah, it's rough in a lot of respects. Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah, Rosie. Some people do. I mean, some people have a good work ethic, or have a good idea or whatever, and they do well for themselves, in spite of everything. So that's great. But those people like you say you did well for yourself. I bet you appreciate it. You weren't, if you were just, if you were, say, Brad Pitt's son or something, and you were just born rich. There's a difference there between building wealth for yourself and just being born into it. You know, there's a big difference there. I bet you have appreciation for what you have. Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed your company, AF. Yeah, that's badass, Mike. Yeah. Bus tables and bought a 72 Suzuki. Yeah. Yeah. That man, we started working when we were young and learned how to work and how to deal with shit. Oh no, your bike was stolen, Arnis? That would suck, dude. Yeah. Yeah, AF, yeah. Yeah, I agree. And but that's I was saying earlier about my goal for just complete self-sufficiency. That's my goal. And I'm not, you know, I don't know. I'm not what I want to say. I don't need the best of everything, you know what I mean? I want good quality products, but I'm not like a person that chases brand names and shit. I don't give a shit whose name's on my underwear. I don't give a shit. I just want some good underwear. I don't care, uh, what the brand names and all that shit. I don't care about. I could live a really simple life. I don't have to have this extravagant, um, huge system of self-sufficiency. No, I'm talking about basics, very basics, and I want simplicity, uh, but I want to be self-sufficient. I mean, and that's my goal. A lot of people would call that bugging in, you know, and I talked about that on that round table thing I did on Sunday evening. I think Mike, you were there, weren't you, Mike Fleisner? Uh, but anyway, the bugging in thing that's my goal in life is to bug in. Whether screw the apocalypse, whether it comes or not, the grid can stay up for eternity. I don't want to be hooked into it at all for any reason. You know, let the supply chain keep flowing. I don't want any part of it. I want to produce my own food and know what I'm eating. I don't want to be eating multi phosphate conglomerate whatever that shit is on the back of the ingredients that I don't understand and can't pronounce. I don't want to eat that shit. I want to eat, I I just want to supply everything for myself and know what it is that I'm supplying, Uh, I want to convert a pickup to electric, an older pickup to electric, and power that thing on the sun. and not be beholden to, Exxon or Shell or any of that. I don't want to, I don't want to depend on Walmart to stay open to get my food. I want to be completely 100% self-sufficient. And if that's called bugging in, then whatever, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Ask your dad for an allowance. He said he allows you to sleep here. Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like something my dad would say. Yeah, I never got an allowance of any kind. An Evil Knievel Huffy? I didn't even know they made those, Jack. That's pretty damn cool, dude. That's how I was, Raziel. Yeah, my first bike was a Frankenstein that I put together out of scrap parts and shit that I collected. Yeah, that was my first bicycle. Oh, yeah, well, shit, I actually, AF, as far as that goes, 185 left, medical school loans. Yeah, it depends on where you're at. Honestly, if I were in your shoes, I'm not giving you advice. No, you need to make your own decision. I'm not one to take advice from, but just to give you a perspective of what someone else would think, it would 110% totally depend on how self-reliant I was. If it didn't matter, if my credit score, if I had got myself into the position where my credit score didn't matter, I'd say screw it. You know, I wouldn't worry about that shit. Uh, Personally, I mean, you've probably paid back, twice what you borrowed already in interest and shit or whatever. I don't know the details of it, but I don't, I'm not going to sit here and tell people to default on their loans and shit, you know what I mean? But uh, banks are evil, you know what I'm saying? They're soul sucking scumbag leeches of society. So I'm not, you, you're not, I'm not gonna feel, I'm not gonna feel any. I won't think less of you. Put it like that. Not even a little tiny bit less. um, that decision would be completely on how much you need to, to get where you want to be in life. Me, once I was completely self-sufficient and I met the goal I've been talking about today, once I met that goal and I was completely self-sufficient, I wouldn't give a shit. I wouldn't even, I would have no moral qualms about it. It's a bank, It's like, that's like having moral qualms about, even I would have more moral qualms literally about setting a mouse trap. You know what I mean? For a mouse that was getting, destroying my food and shit, because I have more empathy for that mouse than I do for a bank. Yeah, I would feel worse about catching a mouse. I heard that before, Raziel. Biodiesel, isn't that right? Isn't that what it's called, Raziel? Biodiesel? A lot of deer in Gainesville. In town. Holy shit. Yeah, no. Like I was saying on that other show I was on, they brought that up about after shit hit the fan, everybody go out and they'd kill all the deer and shit. And I said that I believe that a bunch of yahoos will go out there and they will mostly kill each other. You know what I'm saying? They'll probably kill a lot of deer, but they'll kill each other too, because anything that moves, they'll be shooting at and shit. These people that don't hunt, they just got, but they've got a gun and now they're hungry, so they're going to go out and, people are going to go out there with 9mm and try to shoot deer and shit. You know what I mean? That's going to happen when the shit hits the fan. And, like say 100 people will go out there deer hunting, 2 of them might get a deer and only 50 of them will come back because they were all shooting at each other. Anything that wiggled some bushes they'll be shooting at, and and it's just some other dude out there deer hunting too. So yeah, that's not going to be a good thing to go out shooting at deer right after the shit hits the fan. That's going to be a very dangerous thing. A badass shooting star artist, that's pretty damn cool, dude. Oh, okay. At a garbage dump, found Schwinn and Atala Italian bikes. No shit. That's awesome, dude. Javelinas, yeah. All right, AF. Yeah, I mean, it's just how much it would damage you, how much damage it would do to you personally. I wouldn't worry about how much damage it would do to the bank. But that doesn't matter. That shit's all fake anyway. You know what I mean? So it's just shit that they manifested out of the ether. It's not like it's real stuff. You know what I mean? It's not like they had to go out and manufacture something with someone's blood and sweat and hand it to you. It just manifested out of the ether. It's nothing. It's not like you would be throwing away or somebody's time and effort and like they do with us. When it goes the other way, when our money goes to the bank, our money represents chunks of our lives. It represents our time and our blood, our sweat, our tears. It represents pieces of our lives. When it comes down the other way, it's nothing. It's just manifested. It's nothing. Nobody spent any time creating it. It's literally nothing. It's just lit up polygons or pixels on a screen. That's all it is. So you just have to do what's best for you in that situation. Oh, all right. Yeah, I don't know that. You would have to look into that. What actually would happen? The repercussions of it. The real repercussions, not what somebody told you. So I would look up the real repercussions from it, and if I'd weigh the repercussions versus the personal benefits for yourself, and then just make a solid decision. Oh, okay. But still, is there an interest rate on it, or is it just you're just straight up paying the straight balance? It's still a loan. You have been paying for it. Yeah. Yeah, Raziel, credit score is meaningless. If you get yourself in the right situation, credit score is meaningless. Okay, yeah, biodiesel. I've heard of that stuff before. Yeah, I've talked about that before, Jack. That 50-year mortgage, and that's the thing. I honestly thought that Trump was, because our financial, and we got a lot of problems, but we need surgery, right? In a sense, we need actual reconstructive cures down deep at the bottom in the basic, fundamental shit. And I thought Trump was going to do that. I thought Trump was going to break shit and carve shit open and rip it open and go down and dig in and fix some shit for true and real. This 50-year mortgage is a bandage over the top of it. We've got cancer, and oh, here's a bandage. All this kind of shit. These tariffs, okay, that's great. That's turned out to be a bandage. Where is all this tariff money going? We've taken in billions of dollars worth of tariffs. Our taxes haven't gone down. Nothing has gone down. I know it's only been a year. Hopefully, we can't forget that last time he was president, the last 2 years of his presidency were awesome. There was a great economy. So I remember the last 2 years of his presidency, gas was less than $2 a gallon. $1.80 something a gallon here where I'm at. So yeah, so we got to give him time. But some of his decisions this time just don't make sense. All this 50-year mortgage shit. That's not going to fix the housing problem. That's not going to fix the fact that institutions are buying up residential housing and turning them into investments for big institutions, and it's just a business now. They're turning our housing into products, and turning us into renters, because now the price of buying a house is so high that you're forced to rent. So yeah, that kind of shit has got to be fundamentally restructured to keep foreign countries and corporations from buying residential houses. That should be illegal. I mean, there's no reason for it. There absolutely no reason. People can justify it. There's all kinds of justifications for it, but there is no real solid reason. Like our economy would collapse if whatever XYZ corporation couldn't buy residential housing and jack up the prices and force us into renters. That's not going to happen. So, yeah, that kind of shit. We need this 50-year mortgage shit and all this other. It's all bullshit bandages, and they're even shitty bandages. They're not going to help anyone. Yeah, but that kind of stuff, that kind of stuff, AF. I mean, honestly, we're $37 trillion in debt. We're paying on money that was borrowed back in the 1940s. You know what I mean? We're not. It's not like we're paying taxes and they go right to whatever. They're bilking and scamming and stealing that money. Most of our taxes evaporate into fraud and corruption to pay off politicians and racketeering and all this shit. So if it was just straight up, they took our tax money and paid, and it went right to SNAP. Our tax money, they divvied it up and it went right to whatever. You know what I mean? That would be different. I would 100% agree with what you say here, but that's not the world we live in. So no, yes, in a way, but no, the taxpayers didn't pay for it. It's all it was money borrowed from the Federal Reserve that we never signed up to be involved with. The American people, we never signed up to be involved with this Federal Reserve, this privately owned bank in the first place. That was forced on us, and now they just rob us to enrich themselves. All this idea that our tax money goes to SNAP and our tax money goes to Social Security and our tax money goes to Medicaid and all that, that's all bullshit. That's been bullshit for decades. Our tax money does not go there. It goes into a black hole of debt and vanishes, evaporates, and the debt just keeps climbing from 36 trillion to 37 trillion to 38 trillion. So what is our tax money going for if our debt just keeps increasing? If our national debt just keeps increasing, why we're working our asses off and paying half of our paychecks to go deeper in debt? So yeah, no, that's all. That's what they want us to believe, right? What you said there. That's what they want us to believe. That's the lie we're sold. But that's not actuality. That's not that's not reality. Reality is we're just stolen from, and our money is thrown into this huge black hole of debt. Oh yeah. Yeah, Mike, you would be disappointed. $5 a week for a year. That's awesome, Raziel. And that, you see, that, what do you want to call it? That perseverance to go in there and pay $5 every week for a year. And the end goal, getting the radio, is a year away, and you keep going back. That's what these kids have lost today. It's instant gratification. These kids they wouldn't do that shit now. Now they will pay interest on a pizza that's delivered right now. You know what I mean? Oh, okay. All right, AF. Yeah, I don't know how that federal shit works either. Not completely. I have general ideas. All right, Bucky, be cool, buddy. Thank you for showing up. Yeah, big country, better late than never, dude. Thanks for showing up, big country. Yeah, it is. Yeah, diesel's real stable. And I think now you need a whole bunch of vegetable oil, right? But the average person can make diesel fuel, biodiesel, without all kinds of elaborate, refineries and all kinds of shit. I think it's kind of a simple process. Nah, I didn't get rich from tariffs, Arnis. I was hoping Trump was going to use those tariffs and kind of replace a lot of our taxes with them, and our taxes would go down or something. I mean, I haven't benefited one little bit from the tariffs. So I'm not sure I would just like to know where that money's going, where all this tariff money is going. I think Doge, what happened to Doge, Oliver Rust? I think they're still working, but the whole thing, the spotlight, the media spotlight went off of them with Elon Musk. When he left, the spotlight kind of followed him. But I think that group of people at Doge are still there, still doing that shit. I think. Yeah. Yeah, Raziel. They found a ton of waste, and the government just refused to do anything about it. That sounds about right. Yeah, right. Supposedly, but who's to know? Nobody knows. Yeah, I know. It's hard to say, Raziel, what side he's actually on. Um, And you know, and is that by design? You know what I mean? Is that, you know, does he seem like he's for the people? Is that the way he's supposed to seem? I don't know. Or is that just Elon Musk? Is he just doing the best he can? And, you know, it's hard to say. Yeah. Yeah, pan spray. The prices are crazy. I go in there and I look at these prices now, and some of this shit is just gone off the rails, and it's because of this globalist shit. Excuse me. It's because of this globalist shit. This global trade network, this global economy. We are paying the price now. We are paying the price now. If we would have kept food, you know, homegrown, the supply chains across the ocean would not affect our food and prices. That wouldn't matter, you know. But people, but people wanted avocados year round, you know. So now they're paying. I just saw a watermelon this big, not a huge one like we used to have. A watermelon this big, right? I was walking through the grocery store. Literally, this size watermelon was $13. That just blew my mind. That just blew my mind. $13 for a damn little ass watermelon. And there was a pack of those beef sticks, like, you know, they're Slim Jims, but they're a brand called Chomps. Like 10 of those beef sticks, they're like that big, you know, in a bag, 10 of them, just beef sticks. $22. $22 here at the store close to me. $22. These prices are just getting out of hand. And there's no amount of 50-year mortgages and tariffs that are going to, if tariffs, I'm all for tariffs. Tariff the shit out of these other countries. But we need to fix the shit at home. Tariffing these other countries and just letting them continue with this global economy and this global rape of our country is, you know, is not the way to fix it. It's just not. Oh, really, Arnis? I didn't know that. Diesels from the 70s can run on all sorts of combustible liquids. I didn't know that. Put kerosene in that bitch, yeah. Yeah, yeah, me too. AF, yeah. DoorDash, no, not me. Yeah, leftover McDonald's grease. Yeah, I heard that. Yeah, it's all theater, Arnis. I just that whole Democrat versus Republican shit. Those politicians up there, they're good at their job. They've got everybody confused, and everybody, you know, they're just supporting them 100%. While, you know, and every time they don't do what they said they were going to do, which is 99% of the time, you know, they can just go back into their constituents and talk about those dirty Democrats or those dirty Republicans. They stopped us, but we're going to get them next time, you know. It's all just bullshit. All right, everybody. Well, it's time. I got to get ready for work, so I got to say goodbye. Raziel, Arnis, Mike Fleisner, Jack Mohak, AF, Oliver Rust, Mike Fleisner, Bucky, Panspray. Who else we got? Big Country, better late than never. Did I get everybody already? All right. I think I may have got everybody already. Okay. If I missed your name, I apologize. But goodbye nonetheless. And thanks for showing up. All right. I appreciate it. Another great conversation. This is the kind of shit that needs to be talked about, in my opinion. You know what I mean? This is the kind of stuff we need to get this stuff out here and talk about it and discuss it and you know, think about this shit rationally. Think about all this shit. You know, question everything. I'm Joe P. What's up? Goodbye, Joe P. But you know, we can support Trump and still question some of the shit he does. You know what I mean? We can question the whole Democrat-Republican paradigm, that whole duopoly bullshit that they try to feed us. We can question that shit. We're not forced. You don't have to pick Democrat or Republican. You don't have to pick that shit. We're just tricked into believing that we do. And that's just the honest truth. So, you know, we need to have these conversations and we need to talk about this shit, and we need to see that there are other people out there like ourselves who just have common sense and think about these things on a deeper level, not just the shallow, you know, feelings. I feel like he gets me so angry, you know, that Democrat or that Republican makes me so mad, so we should do this. That's making decisions based on feelings, and that's not how you run a country. That's not how you run a household, let alone a country. So yeah. Robert Thorsberg. Hey, Robert Thorsberg. Yeah, all that uniparty bullshit, Robert. Yeah, you're exactly right, dude. That shit, everybody needs to open their eyes to that shit and realize that these people have been playing the American people for suckers for decades with that uniparty bullshit. All right, everybody. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'll be back tonight at 8 o'clock. Same bat channel. I appreciate it. I love the hell out of these conversations we have. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you're right, Robert. Yeah, I agree. No, extraordinary means, dude. That's basically where we're at now. Yeah. All right, everybody. Thanks for stopping by, and I'll leave you there with that. As always, stay frosty, Gen X, and I'll see you on the next one.